So, hello everybody, and welcome to the last talk on this track today. We are going to be talking about digital transformations in corporations and how strategic involvement drives success. My name is Oskari, and I work as a cloud lead at Solida Germany, and I've had the pleasure of working together with Nick the last 1.5 years on a digitalization initiative at AB Enzymes. So, Nick, do you want to tell a bit more about you and
Sure.
AB Enzymes?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Nick Tobias, and I am working in the Research and Development Department at AB Enzymes as a bioinformatician. So I'm in the bioinformatics team, but I'm also leading the digitalization initiative. And we're going to tell you a little bit today about our journey in digitalizing a small, relatively R&D heavy company that belongs to a much bigger corporation. And particularly the things that we've learned along the way with how involving the right people at the right time is what's been made us successful in our journey. So AB Enzymes belongs to Associated British Foods. And Associated British Foods is a large multinational corporation that operates in 55 countries around the world. And they have subsidiaries in many different industries. So the grocery, agriculture, sugar, retail, and then where we belong in the ingredients industries as well. And some of the brands are really well known, like Primark, the clothing store, or Twinings Tea. And some are relatively less known, like us at AB Enzymes. And that's because we are producing quite a specialized product. So enzymes are involved, or they're included in many different products. For example, in laundry detergents. So we add them to laundry detergents. They help remove stains from your clothes. Or you can also add them to fruit juices to reduce the sugar content. And we're producing our enzymes by using bacteria or fungi. And in R&D, we're optimizing this product in two major ways. So firstly, we can make the bacteria or the fungi more efficient at producing the enzyme, or we can target the enzyme itself and really improve the enzyme characteristics. So going back to the detergent example, some people like to wash their clothes in warm water or cold water, and we need our enzyme to be active in both of those environments. So to do all of this, we are doing lots of experiments in the lab. We're using a variety of different lab equipment, and all of these pieces of equipment are producing data. And all of this data, of course, needs to be analyzed, and that's where our team, the bioinformatics team, can help. So we help process the data to analyze it, and that might be something as simple as taking a spreadsheet and creating a graph, or it might be something a little bit more complicated, like machine learning on the protein structure. So if we roll back around 7 years, things felt relatively good in the labs. We had people were happy with the connectivity, the state of connectivity of the lab instruments, and problems were solved by our local IT on an ad hoc basis. But the problem here was that we had multiple solutions for the same problem, and it's not scalable in any way for a modern R&D environment. And so what is a modern R&D environment for us? Well, there's a strong trend towards robotics or high throughput screening. And this means that some machines are producing terabytes of data in just a few days. And of course, we want to embrace this. We want to collect that data. We want to understand it. We want to analyze it because this is what helps us build better products. But if it can be analyzed efficiently, it's going to allow us to make much more informed decisions. And this is what we're really trying to achieve. We're really aiming to make better decisions based on facts rather than based on gut feelings or best guesses, which of course also work. But we want to increase our strike rate. We want to really optimize, aiming for success. So one little hurdle that we had was that around 6 years ago, in 2018, we transitioned to a centralized IT that was being offered by ABF, our parent company.
And to kind of set the scene for you, this was exactly the time when ransomware was really becoming a household name, and kind of the focus towards IT and data security had become kind of the big thing in the IT world. And for companies like AB Enzymes, this was obviously a really important thing because kind of the core competitive advantage of ABE is their data, is their knowledge, their manufacturing and R&D processes. They are in the core of what sets ABE Enzymes apart from their competitors. This, however, had some unintended consequences, especially in the labs, where these ad hoc solutions Nick mentioned before, they were quite often deemed non-compliant with the new corporate IT guidelines. They were one-off solutions, they were maybe not so well documented, and they were not something that could be easily, for example, audited. This, in many cases, caused sadly that people in the lab had no solution than to fall back to kind of the old ways, meaning devices became more and more disconnected. When people had to move data, instead of having it automated, they maybe now had to go from one device to another with an USB stick. Or instead of having a program on their laptop to analyze the data, they actually had to print out the graph. This meant that especially on the perceived level of digitalization, it was actually, instead of taking steps forward, the R&D at ABE was taking steps backwards. And looking at the kind of how we mapped out the perceived state of digitalization, we were kind of on the bottom curve of this kind of development.
Right, and of course that's not somewhere we wanted to be, and it was something that we needed to fix. So we really then did something about it. We started small. We were a small internal team, and our goal was to just better understand the situation. So we wanted to know what data was produced, who was producing it, why, where, how, and really just gather a better understanding of the data landscape. And to do this, we spoke with team leads, key team members to really gather an understanding of and dig a little bit deeper into their workflows and their processes and see how that aligned with what we were trying to achieve. But very quickly, we realized we were out of our depth. So we were resource poor, and we understood on a fairly good level what we were trying to build and the scope of that. And we didn't have the technical capabilities to do that. So we started looking around because we also didn't have any skills. I mean, we are data analysts. We don't have skills in organizational psychology or change management. And we started a collaboration with Solita, and that's where Oskari joined the team.
Yeah, that was roughly 1.5 years ago. And then back then I joined Nick's team together with another colleague. And we started to kind of go through the basics of, okay, what are you actually trying to achieve? What have been the things that have inhibited you of doing it beforehand? And also going through all the background material Nick and his colleagues had actually been producing beforehand. And we noticed that their groundwork had been pretty good, because we always want to start digitalization projects by actually talking to the users doing the work, in this case, in a laboratory. Because otherwise you cannot really get a grip on what is the core issue here. After understanding kind of how the daily work looks like in the lab, we also started involving other key assets. In this case, those were people from the centralized IT, people from the management, so we could actually get a better look on how does this all come together. And we quite quickly noticed that there are two main topics we need to focus on. First of all, technological aspects. So what kind of technological solutions do we need? What are the foundational capabilities that we need to build up so we can reuse them also in the future to make things work a bit smoother and to be corporate approved? The second part, what was also mentioned by Nick before, were the organizational things. So how do we communicate towards the people working in the lab so we get their support, but also management communications. So how should we communicate towards management? So first of all, we can tell them what kind of resources do we need and when, so they can support us. But also in an expectation management sense, meaning how long do these things usually take and how much resources over the years is this going to need if we want to be successful? Finally, to kind of help communicate this whole initiative to other stakeholders, we also built quite an extensive roadmap with different swim lanes to make it easier to actually communicate what we are doing, what do we need, and also how do we delegate different responsibilities. And after these first two phases of preparations, it actually became surprisingly easy to roll this initiative out because we had all the material we needed to communicate what do we need, who do we need, and when do we need it.
So one final challenge that we had was that what we had to work with was this business as usual approach. And so we've moved to a centralized IT, and centralized IT became a black box to us. We had our local IT contact, and we could submit a ticket, and then they would make the magic happen. So this works really well when you have a standard request. So for example, you want a new software on your laptop, you put in a ticket, and sometimes in a few minutes, you have the software on your computer. But what happens when you have a specialized lab instrument that you want connected to the company network, and then to also run a data pipeline that needs access to scalable computation? You put in a ticket to that, and nothing happens. And this is something that we had to figure out, is that we needed to understand what our centralized IT cared about so that we could better communicate our requirements. And of course, this business as usual, it wasn't going to work because to build something completely new by doing things this way doesn't make sense. We had some challenging IT projects at our company in the past, and we really wanted to learn from those as well. So we spoke as well to people there and tried to understand what was difficult for them so that we could do better this time. And so it really became a priority to bring all of the relevant parties as early as possible to the table.
And that's when we come to kind of our key conclusion is that we need to bring all the parties to the same table. So a key challenge that had been identified beforehand is that communication is usually where it breaks down. And to be honest, that's not a very unique situation. And I would say for our initiative, at least, this was kind of a key finding out. We noticed immediately after implementing this kind of a central discussion forum that reoccurred weekly in our case, that we had much less miscommunication. And if something happened, we could much quicker fix it. We also had much less this kind of pass the puck or finding the right person or the right organization. And finally, I would say probably the most important was this mental change that people started feeling more and more that we are in this together. And it was not just another ticket in everybody's backlog. Instead of it was this journey that we were on together, and we are all responsible that we achieve something. And yeah, of course, this causes some overhead, but I think we both agree that that overhead is very well worth it. Yeah. Well, because we actually started achieving something.
So, I mean, we learned a lot, really, and to summarize it into 3 points was difficult. But digital transformation is not business as usual. I think that's clear. We don't ever want to be in a situation where we're only innovating when we need to or when we're forced to. We wanted to create structures that enable us to have the foresight to proactively prepare for upcoming industry trends and allow our business to grow. And to do this, digital transformation should become business as usual. We need to create these reusable blueprints because digital transformation is not a one and done. It is an incremental process. We need to keep improving that. But to do this, we also have to have the right people at the right time. So we involved a lot of people at the start, and then we also didn't get it right the first time. And you can't be afraid to shake things up if it's not working.
And like mentioned before, there are no silver bullets. We are not saying that bringing everybody to the same table will fix all of your problems. But I think it was a good idea. We still have some problems. For example, we still struggle navigating an unknown organization. When we need to find a certain type of person in an organization we don't know, it's still really hard for us. And I think the only solution for that is that we get to know them better, and that will take some time. The second is this kind of organization of specialists thingy. When we are talking about IT and IT security organizations, they are quite often full of specialists, meaning they don't have these generalists that you would have a single person that would get it done for you from end to the beginning. Instead, they have these individuals who are super skilled in one really, really narrow domain, and then we need to knit those people together to get an end-to-end solution.
So to wrap this up, tech is easy, people are hard. And if you really start to try to understand the motivations of those people, then it becomes a little bit easier. So we've created new collaboration structures. Is there extra overhead? Yes. Do things move slower than we'd prefer? Sure. But are we still moving forward? Always. And I think that that's really the key, is that this setup has been really, really valuable for us. And we're going to endeavor to use it in future projects as well because it works for us. We are not at our ultimate goal. But I truly believe we're on the right track, and the people have been key. So involving them at the right time has really been essential. And whether that's the local IT, the IT security, our senior leadership, or importantly, the end users, we need everyone on board to make these kinds of initiatives a success.
And that's it. Thank you for listening in. If you have any questions or comments, I think you can write them to the chat, and we will be there magically to answer them. Thank you.